Hi, I'm Mandy Grolke, and this is Grateful by Lady Law, where I dive deep into the stories of the connections that have shaped the person I am today. The journey that started in a small town in Texas and led to courtrooms in Nebraska has been filled with life-changing encounters and lessons. Join me as we celebrate the highs and navigate the lows while we explore the rich tapestry of human connection. Welcome back to Grateful by Lady Law. If you are enjoying the program, I ask that you subscribe to all of our social media channels. Today, I have a very special guest. This is one of my dearest friends, a person that I have known for the last 22 years, Holly Jones. Welcome to Grateful by Lady Law, Holly.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here.
Of course.
So today I invited you here for so many reasons. First of all, you've been my friend for 22 years.
Oh, thank you.
And in those 22 years, you and I both have been through so much.
Mm-hmm.
And so today I wanted to introduce you to my listeners and the viewers out there. I wanted to talk a little bit about our connection, and then I kind of wanted them to hear your story because you have a phenomenal story. You're such a success here in the Omaha community, and you understate everything that you do.
Oh, that's so nice of you. Well, I'm really grateful to be here. It's a pleasure to be on this journey with you on this podcast and to visit with your listeners and talk to them about our story and my story a little bit. So yeah, happy to be here. I'd like to start off by saying Mandy and I have been friends for, over 22 years. We haven't worked a ton in the professional industry together, but very much so in the personal industry. But we've certainly been good coaches and mentors to each other professionally. So, I think we have a good story and it's interesting. And like Mandy mentioned, we've kind of been through a lot together. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So one of my earliest memories of you is on a boat on the Missouri River.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Do you remember that?
In a much different time.
Yes. And one of the things that I learned on that voyage down the Missouri River is that we're problem solvers.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Yep, I do.
So we had a bottle of champagne and nothing to drink it, to pour it in.
Yep.
But we'd been to McDonald's.
I mean, nothing a McDonald's cup can't solve.
Right, exactly. So
With a straw.
Right? Drinking champagne out of McDonald's cups, floating down the Missouri River. And that's where we first bonded.
Yeah,
I think.
That's when our friendship started. And we've kind of both always had a love for sun and fun, and always champagne's it's a good tech too. So
yeah, absolutely. So one of the other ways that we have worked together professionally, I guess you could say, as bartenders.
Yep.
And so Holly showed me how to become, or taught me how to become a bartender, a good bartender.
Yeah.
And we worked at the Cottonwood Marina outside of Blair together.
Yeah, it was interesting because I remember meeting you that day on the boat trip, and it was one of our first encounters, meeting. And you had asked me what I'd done, and at the time I was working in a completely different industry, but I'd always been in the hospitality business, kind of as a side gig. And I had told you that I was, bartended and waitressed at a lot of different places, but at that current time I was in Blair at Cottonwood. And you always told me you thought it was an interesting thing to do, and you'd never bartended or waitressed anywhere, and you thought you wanted to learn how. And I was like, well, it's a very interesting position to be in. You can make a lot of money, but you have to be really good at it to make a lot of money. And so there it was, and off we went.
Right.
And we spent quite a few years together after that, at Cottonwood together, me teaching you a little bit about the business and kind of making a lot of money together and having a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah.
One of the things that I picked up on early on and just watching you, the lessons I learned from you through bartending, was how you take care of people.
Yeah.
And that was like number one, being a bartender, you're taking care of the patrons at the bar, the people you serve. And you also took care of all the other employees. You just made sure everyone was safe. And I watched that early on. Some of the lessons, the bartending lessons of just making sure, that everyone has a drink in front of them. Back in the day when you could smoke, making sure ashtrays were emptied. I'm so glad we don't have that anymore. And just making sure that you are just so personable to people.
Yeah, I mean, really the knack over the years for me, and a little bit, call it the secret sauce, has been, customer service. And I started working at a very young age. all in the hospitality business. And as a bartender and as a waitress or a server in general, I think you just have to learn how to provide the best customer service you can. So it's experiential. So people like to return and they have a good time when they have a good experience. And so I was very much about teaching you, when you wanted to learn this business, how to provide great customer service, how to manage the bar, how to manage the food, how to manage cocktails and keep a clean environment, and be really personable at it. And, I told you some fun tricks along the way about how to make money, and how you could become successful doing that as your second job. And kind of the same, I guess, philosophy I had for myself when I learned how to do it. And we were kind of utilizing it as a second income sort of thing, side gig, so to speak. So, and it's great cash money. And back then, which was 20 years ago, a long time ago, it was a different world. It was a different industry then than it is today, even in the hospitality world. But it was great. I appreciate the compliment, and I think you did great at it. You were a quick learner, which is not easy. The bartending business is not for everyone. You can teach a lot of things, but you can't teach personality and being dutiful to customers and things like that. You either kind of have that knack or you don't. And I think you did, and we worked together quite a while there.
I think it's important. Like, the one thing I realized is you have to let a lot of stuff roll off your back.
You do.
And you can't take many things personal. And I think that's one reason you and I are successful back then and now in all the things that we do is we really realize that most of it's not personal. We don't take things personal. We have thick skin.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think really bonded us from the get-go is the hustle. And the fact that, like you said, you could make extra cash on the side. It was kind of a gig job, but you and I both had full-time jobs, and we both were doing other things with our personal lives. But we just wanted more. Yeah. And I think that's kind of both of our rags to riches story, is that we've always wanted more, but we don't rely on somebody else to provide that for us.
Yeah, I think we were both somewhat raised in an environment 20 years ago and even today is to work for what you want. And at that time, we probably neither one of us were all that satisfied with our full-time job and kind of wanted more, whether it was for spending money or to pay bills or to kind of make ends meet. It was important for us to work a second job, but you got to make it fun. I mean, you got to be good at it. And then it's rewarding because you also get paid to do it. So I do like the word hustle. I think we're both kind of hustlers in our 20 years later in our current careers, with a lot of change and a lot of things, interesting things and unique things that have happened to both of us personally and professionally. So I live for the hustle. I think you kind of live for the hustle. And that's kind of probably what's connected us and kept us good friends for so many years. But yeah.
Yeah. And one of the other things, one last thing about the bartending gig that I'll never forget is just how I realized it was really important about how you present yourself. And that one of the things you always told me is you don't go home with the customers. And it's, and not only, to be respectful of yourself and to make sure you have that barrier between you and the customers. And so that they feel comfortable around you, but you always have that professional barrier. And I think that bode well, definitely for the bartending experience, but then also just throughout the rest of my professional life is you want to give good customer service. You want to be there for your clientele, but you also have to have that boundary. And I that really made me realize healthy boundaries in our professional lives as women.
I mean, I said it years ago, and I still kind of abide by this rule in my current career and my personal life. Everybody that knows me knows I'm a hugger. I'm a touchy person. That's not for everyone, but I hug my customers. I hug my clients. I hug my friends, family, everybody. It's acceptable in some settings. It's not in others. And back then, if you're hugging people in the bar scene and people are drinking alcohol, it can come off with it can be misconceived, I guess, and misconstrued. So you do have to keep boundaries. And I feel like I tried to give you as a young person a lot of tips because there is a little bit of an age difference between you and I. And I kind of took you under my wing and wanted to be a little bit protective, like a kid sister. But I wanted to teach you a few tricks of the trades to keep you safe and to keep you professional and maybe even to just teach a little life lesson. And I do think, never going home with customers and handling cash the appropriate way and taking care of a bar environment, which is an interesting environment in itself, professionally. It's hard to be professional in the bar industry. It really, really is, because there's a lot of things that go into it. But to handle yourself professionally, even as a young person, it's hard work. And but I think it was really good for both of us.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It was awesome.
yeah.
And even after that fizzled, sometimes I even forget, like, when did I quit working at Cottonwood? I think we worked together there for about 3 summers. We still remain close friends.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what, initially we came together because your ex-husband and my ex-boyfriend knew each other, but it was our friendship survived those relationships.
Yeah.
And we've been through so much together. What do you want to talk about next?
I mean, I think it's important for us to talk about how, life kind of changes and moves at a fast pace. Like you said, we were both in a different personal life situation back then when we became friends. And today we're in even a more different personal life situation. You had mentioned ex-boyfriend, ex-husband. I obviously was married for close to 25 years and got divorced about 5 years ago. And, so that's a huge life change. I spent half my life being in a married family, and now I'm a single mom with a college student. And so my life's changed a lot. Yours has also changed a lot over the time with relationship. And, although you don't have children, you've had a lot of change. And that could mean personal relationships, family, a lot of things. So I do think it's important to keep great friends over that time frame when life's changing at a rapid speed. And a lot of times we can't control the changes that come about, that's kind of life, they say, is you kind of have to take the cards you're dealt. And but if you have close friends and a good foundation, you kind of share your life with those people.
Absolutely.
I watched you become everything from a bartender to working with youth, to your legal career, to a lot of things, and over the years. And you've watched me do the same.
Yes.
You've watched me be in bar business and sell media and be in commercial real estate and own my own restaurant and, a lot of things over the years. So it kind of has come full circle with the thought of us working together in hospitality in a bar to me now owning my own establishment. But now you're a patron. You don't work with me or for me, but I would love it if you did, because we'd have fun.
Oh my goodness.
It'd still be fun.
Things to come.
Maybe that's on our next things to do list. But it feels like it's come a little bit full circle.
Let's talk a little bit about you being a mom. Because I think that's a huge piece to me that like you said, I'm not a mom. I have helped raise my brother's kids, and that's probably as close to being a mom as I'm going to be. And that's a lot. But Holly Jones is a mom. I'll never forget when you told us, that you were pregnant. And I could tell 2 things: that you were scared and you were thrilled.
Yeah. Which, by the way, was a shock for everyone, including me. It was like, okay, now I'm going to be a mom, because everybody knew me as Fun Holly. So it's like, oh, she's going to get a new title. So no, being a mom has been fantastic. It's been my biggest accomplishment in life. I've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of things well, and I've done a lot of things not so well. And I am a big learn from your mistakes type person, but being a mom has been my biggest blessing. And even though I unfortunately had a dissolved marriage, I always tell people the best thing that ever came out of my marriage was being able to become a mom and have a family, at least for 13 years of my life. And I have a fantastic daughter. She's 19 years old. She goes to school at Lincoln. Unbelievably smart. She obviously, I don't know that she got her academic smarts from me, but maybe her street smarts. But I couldn't be more thrilled. I mean, when people ask me about my titles and the things that I do and my accolades and things that have happened over the years, I always tell people the very first, my biggest accomplishment is being a mom. And being a single mom's hard. And I never had anticipated being a single mom, but again, you kind of get the cards you dealt, you take and you run with them, but you kind of pick them up and go. But I couldn't be more proud to be a single mom. And, I have a lot of titles with my career and personally, professionally, but mom is my number one title first. That's always come first for me. And it's exciting. It's a weird dynamic because when you're a mom, your kids seem little. And now I have like a young adult relationship with my daughter. So she's my best friend for sure. One of my best friends. So it's pretty cool how things have changed.
And I remember over the years, when you and I would catch up, you would talk about Maisie, and she definitely, every time you talk about her, your face lights up. And I just remember thinking this little girl is going to be
Yeah.
something. And she has the same work ethic as her
Yep.
mother. She is a go-getter. And it's just so exciting to see what she's going to become.
It's so crazy
Yeah.
because she is my mini me. I know
She
that's
is.
cliche, but I don't know if that's good or bad, but she's like always had 2 jobs. She's brilliantly smart academically. That was not me.
Yeah.
She clearly got that from her father, but she is just super smart. She is a go-getter. She's got the most energy. She has my personality. Again, like she doesn't take no for an answer. She's a big achiever. She's a hustler. Like, so yeah, it's fun to watch. It really is fun to watch her grow. And I do think she's going to be really, really successful at whatever she ends up doing and chooses to do. It's a little young. It's a little early in the game. She's still a little young, so things change, but I think she's going to do really well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
it's fun.
So about your professional life. So you've done so many things and you're doing so many things. And it's so interesting because I feel like that's the one piece that I have to like draw out of you more because you don't sing your own praises.
Yeah, I do. One of my downfalls probably, or something that makes me a bit uncomfortable in life, is I don't like to receive gifts so much, and I don't really like to receive a lot of accolades. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And I don't know why that is, but I am a very busy person. I do consider myself successful. I have had a lot of great achievements over the years, but I'm pretty modest when it comes to talking about my career and my successes. But you're probably going to make me.
Yeah, I'm going to pull some of this out of you.
Yeah. But I'm not a boastful type. I'm very, very humble and grateful. That's why I love your message and the name of your show and stuff, because it fits. It fits people like you and me. We're grateful for everything that's happened, good and bad. It kind of builds character and builds who we are. And I am the type that doesn't like to talk a lot about achievements, but I do consider myself successful, and I work really hard for what I have. So,
and so you're one of the many things you do. One of your many hats is you sell commercial real estate through Lund.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. I've been with the Lund company, which merged with a larger global company about 11 years ago. So our real name is Cushman Wakefield, the Lund company. So we have a hybrid name, or joint name, but I've been there just shy of 20 years. I've had a lot of different jobs within that 20 years. I started out kind of being a mall manager for the owner of our company. And then several years later, I went into property or facilities management. I did that for about 8 years. And that, by the way, is a full-time job, 24/7. You're on call, and it's a great gig. You can make a lot of money, but it was hard on a young family. At that time, my daughter was very little, not even in school yet. And unfortunately, Maze she was a sick infant. So she took a little more time than some of the other kids out there. But it was when you're in facilities and there's a snowstorm or there's a power outage or there's fire alarms or whatever, we didn't have the technology that they have today. We had to jump in the car and go there no matter what time of day or night it was. So I was packing up a little one in the middle of the night a lot and taking her on the road with me. And so she got to experience a lot of empty buildings, a lot of alarms going off, a lot of cold weather, a lot of different things. But I did that for about 8 years, and Maze eventually went into school, and it got a little easier for me when she was in elementary and middle school. And then they asked me to actually run their brokerage department on the retail side of things. So I became the director of retail services for our firm about 11 years ago, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. 10, 11 years ago. And I've been doing that ever since. And I love it. Like, I'm passionate about it. I love retail. I love the brokerage business. No day is the same. People are like, well, what do you really do? You say commercial real estate. And I always have to remind them, when you go in malls and grocery stores and gas stations and strip centers and boutiques and just anything service driven, those are the type of tenants that I place in their businesses. If they want to buy buildings or build a building or build a restaurant or have a boutique or a shoe store or anything like that, a gas station, I help them do that. And it's interesting because deals like that are not easy, and you got to work long and hard on them. And, but
they all have different wants and needs.
They do. And people like, so what'd you do today? Well, definitely nothing I've ever done any other day because every day is like a new day, and you do so, it's not repetitive. You really, every day is different. So that's probably why I love it. And it kind of keeps me going. But, so I've worked in the commercial real estate world for quite some time. There are very few women that work in the commercial real estate world. So I'm kind of in a guy's world. I work in the world of suits, but I love it. I work with about 24 men in my department, and I'm kind of everyone's kid sister and one of the guys and all those titles, but I love it. They're very, very respectful of me. And I wouldn't change it. I love it. I've discovered maybe I'm better with working with men. I don't know.
I know how that goes.
Why that is. I don't dislike women, but I seem to always fall in this category of working with men, but I love it. And they're great guys. Yeah. Yeah. They're kind of like they're my protectors, my big brothers. So
that's awesome.
We have a good time. Yeah. Yeah. So it's fun. And outside of the commercial real estate world, about 2 years ago, I'd say, 1.5 to 2 years ago, I decided that I was going to get back into hospitality when my daughter moved out and went away to college, and I was somewhat an empty nester. And I opened the winery and deli, which is just right at 98th and Dodge, and kind of wine bar, sandwich shop. And the winery was around for about 30 years. And unfortunately, the previous owner passed away rather suddenly, and his family wasn't in a position to continue. And it sat vacant for about 4 years. The building sat vacant. And I was a facilities manager and a leasing agent for the property. And I kind of watched people pull the door handle, like they still wanted to go in this business. And I was like, this is crazy. It's been closed for 4 years and people are still trying to open the door to this business. And so I said, I'm going to reopen this.
I love that.
It was just kind of a brainchild, very unexpected. Didn't know that wasn't part of the plan. And I went to my mom, who's very, very involved and has been involved in the restaurant business for over 50 years on her own. And I said, I think I want to open a restaurant. And she thought I was crazy. And she told me I was crazy. And but she was super supportive, and she still helps me out in the restaurant still today. And my mom is just the brain power behind food, and she's an awesome cook. And I learned to cook from my mom, and just kind of some recipes from when I was a kid, and just some tactics of cooking when I was young from my grandmother and my mom. And so it feels kind of like a family business, even though the only part of my family that's there is my mom and I. The fun thing about it is a lot of times Maze helps us out. So my daughter will work in there, and we'll all three be in there sometimes when she's on break or summer, away from her other two jobs. But
I've gone when all three generations.
All three generations are in there, and people love it. It's kind of our little shtick. And so it's really fun. And you can definitely tell we're all three related when we're in there. We don't all three look alike, but we all three act alike. So it's fun. So that's been really fun. It's going very, very well. I'm in the process of actually doing a little bit of a concept rebrand and adding breakfast to the mix. So taking on another animal, another day part of food service. But I
think you'll do well, because Omaha loves breakfast.
Omaha loves breakfast. And we've catered breakfast all along, kind of secretively, not because we ever offered it, but customers, we have good relationships with our customers, and they have asked us to do breakfast catering and different things. So we kind of got into it about 6 months ago. And then I thought, why don't we just do this full time? Like, we're doing it anyway, so we might as well market ourselves that way. So I would say within about a month, a little bit later this fall, we'll kind of make an adjustment to our concept and be adding another day part to our restaurant. And
so you're not the type of person that ever puts a pin in anything, are you? Like, you're never done.
Not really done. My brain's always thinking. People are always like, when do you sleep? I'm like, I don't. My brain runs about 23 hours a day.
125%, right?
Yeah, all the time. And we talk about this. Mandy and I over the years, and even just most recently, have talked about the people who say, they use the comment that they go 110. Yeah. And I say I go 125.
Exactly.
So, and it's not because I think I work harder than anyone else. I work hard, but my brain goes 125. I don't know how to shut it off. So, but it's a good quality. It has its pros and cons. It can be exhausting, but in the same aspect, it can be rewarding, like it is for me today. So, yeah.
And a lot of your, especially your accomplishments in real estate, have not gone unnoticed.
No.
So you've attended many award shows, and you've received a lot of awards in the community. And those are the things that you'd never know. Holly doesn't post this on her social media.
Yeah, no.
She doesn't. Yeah.
It's funny, because the only way you would know that I receive rewards, probably if my company didn't post it, just because that's part of the process, is unless you came to my physical office. And I don't hang my awards up. Everyone has their awards hung on the wall, and mine are like stacked up on the top of my credenza. It's pathetic. People are like, you should display your awards. And then it's kind of like, I don't have that much wall space. And I don't mean that to say boastful, but I'm like, this would be like creepy in here if I had all these awards. It's a little overwhelming. So I have them just kind of propped up all over, whatever, what's reminder, and kind of keeps me going. And but I am very grateful for all the things that I've been acknowledged for and recognized for and stuff. And I tell people all the time, I don't like to be boastful about rewards or achievement acknowledgement, because I'm not a person who believes that that comes with just me. And I don't love the it takes a village theory, really, but it does take a team. And I certainly would not be where I'm at today without my team and my foundation and my people. There's no way I could be successful at real estate or run a restaurant or be involved in my other real estate and business investments without my team. And that's a professional team and a personal team. You know, my professional team is my staff, my handful of staffs, and but my personal team, you know, is my family and friends. And I don't have a large family, but I consider most of my friends family, even more so than my blood-related family. I do have a very small family, unfortunately. And so a lot of my closest friends, dear friends like you, Mandy, have become more my family than my real family. So I consider that that's my team, you know, and that's how I got successful with my team. So
speaking of family, that's kind of one of our other common points, is that, you know, we didn't grow up with silver spoons in our mouths by any means. And we kind of had it a little rough. And then we've also both experienced loss and grief. And the most, you know, my listeners know by now about Walt passing away. One of the things that I realized after he passed away is I reflected upon the people I was really close to, that they've had people in their lives pass away that they were close to. And I always was, you know, I was more cognitive, like, oh, I hope I didn't overlook their grief, because I didn't realize how significant it was until it happened to me. And I do recall when your dad passed away, and I know that was such a hard time for you. And so, you know, I just remember you coming to Walt's funeral, and you were there for me. And I thank you for that. Like,
of course.
Always been, you know, just such a huge thing, just to see you and being, you know, when somebody passes away, we never know what to say. But just having that presence of a friend means a lot. So.
Death is a hard thing. And loss in general is a hard thing, even if it comes from not death. It's unfortunately something that I've experienced a lot in my life. And, you don't know what to say and you don't know what to do. But I do think just being present kind of says and does it all. That's a little bit my philosophy behind it, even when I was experiencing it myself. You know, like you, having an unexpected loss is almost even harder, because you really don't get to do goodbyes, and you don't get to do time, and a lot of other things. And it's the what ifs and all the things that come along with grief and loss and mourning somebody who's passed. But I do think it's a time when you use your foundation and you use your closest friends, and they really don't have to say or do a lot, just be present, you know. And I think we've done that for each other. And I think it's a good general lesson for people, that they should be considerate and think about other people's lives when they're going through tragedy and loss and things like that. So,
absolutely. So back to the, you know, not starting from, you know, having silver spoons in our mouths or anything like that. Kind of, what was your motivation to get to where you are today?
You know, it's hard. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and my family wouldn't be surprised by me saying that. And I moved out of my parents' home when I was extremely young. I started working at an extremely young age. My folks forced me to work, which I'm super grateful for now. At the time, I didn't think it was too much fun, and I wasn't happy with them. But it definitely makes me who I am today. And it did create so much independence for me then and now. Not a lot of people move out when they're still in high school.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit unheard of. And I moved out at a high school age and got my own apartment and was working several jobs. And I'm a little bit embarrassed to say this, but I'll say it just because I think it keeps me real and people can relate. At the time I moved out, I had been working for the fast food chain Burger King.
Yeah.
And everybody knows Burger King,
Right.
but I had been working for a Burger King in Council Bluffs, Iowa, where I grew up. And I was actually the manager, and I was like 17 years
That's
old,
incredible.
which is so funny. Like, I don't know who
You're in
gets to
charge
do
of
that.
it.
You're like in charge of all the Burger King employees, but I was, and I was the only one who could wear street clothes. I didn't have to wear a uniform. I was like the cool girl. But anyway, I was working there, and they offered me Mike Simmons. He was most people in Omaha know Mike Simmons. Yeah. Unfortunately, he's since passed away, but brilliantly successful guy in fast food and quick serve industry. But he gave me the opportunity when I graduated high school to stay working with Burger King, and they would give me a scholarship if I continued to manage these stores, these units for him. And it was a very hard decision to make because, of course, my family and my peers at that time were like, you should totally do it. You'd have no school debt. Yeah. Like, you could go to college for free. But then I had to think about it and say, but I'm going to be the Burger King girl for the rest of my life. Right. I still have to continue to work at Burger King. Right. And that's not the coolest job in the whole world, probably, when you're in college, but people do it. So, and they're very successful at it. And I respect people who do it. But I continued until I graduated, and I did decline. And I ended up going to UNO for a brief stint, and later following my then boyfriend, soon to be husband, to Iowa State. And I went to Iowa State, and that's where I actually graduated from. But I was not given much, and I had to work really hard. I was not assisted with college or school or anything that comes along with that. And that's not a pity party for Holly. It was, if I wasn't going to take care of myself, it wasn't going to happen. Right. So it was my motivation. My parents were big into work ethic, specifically my mom. My mom was kind of her, I would call it mantra, or it's a good word, I guess, for it, was nobody's going to take care of you but you. Yeah. So that meant everything. And so I've kind of lived that mantra my whole life, and it can be good and bad, because it can make you almost too independent, but it's created a lot of success for me. It's created my work ethic. It always reminds me of where I was from. I grew up as a kid very, very poor. We didn't have new clothes and new shoes, and we didn't get to do fun things. And like going out to eat for your birthday once a year was a treat, and on Saturdays, if mom could afford to take you along with her, you could get a McDonald's Happy Meal, like that was a treat. So much different than our kids today. Like, my daughter drinks coffee from Starbucks every day, and, all the things, and she pays for it, but it's just a different environment. But I certainly will never forget where I came from, because I didn't have the lifestyle then that I have today. And but I believe in working hard, and work ethic can shine through in a lot of different ways, but it certainly started for me at a very young age. Yeah.
And I was so similar to that. Yeah. Like, I remember the first job that I ever had was cleaning the Baptist church. Mm-hmm. So cleaning the bathroom. I was 14, and cleaning the bathrooms and the sanctuary, and just doing whatever I could in the little town I grew up, just so I could make some money, so I could someday have a car and pay my own insurance and things like that. Because, my parents helped out here and there, but there was, some dysfunction in the home too. And I just knew that if I wanted it, I had to go out and get it myself. Yeah. So I just did it. Like, you just do it. It's like, I feel like I've been in autopilot my entire life. Yep. Like, you just do what has to be done.
You do. Yeah. Cars are a funny thing. I think it's something we should talk about. Yes. Maybe you want me to bring this up, and maybe you don't, but, I was the kid that always had a bad car growing up. I got the hand-me-down cars. I was expected to buy them. They half the time didn't work correctly, and a lot of things, and they were always funny looking and just worse color, like all of it. Totally. Okay. So I was the one who, didn't drive nice cars. Even through college and even my young adult life, I had bad cars. And not until most recently, as a more successful adult, have I ever drove a nice car. Yeah. But I have to give a little bit of accolade to you, because a couple of months ago, Mandy and I got together for lunch. She was at the law firm, and we were meeting for lunch during the day for just a quick catch up, get together. And I went into her office and we were kind of chatting, and we were going to walk across the street to a local restaurant. And she said, "I have something to show you." And I was like, uh-oh, like what's going on here? And Mandy's drove nicer cars than me in the past, but I didn't think it was a car and, or vehicle in general. And, she kind of started walking down the stairs. And so now I'm like, well, she's going to show me something that's outside, not inside the building. Right. And so we walk outside, and I'm kind of looking around, and we're in the parking lot, and we're kind of walking towards the restaurant, but a little bit towards the back of the law firm's parking lot. And we get back there, and there's this big truck, big fancy truck. And we're kind of walking up, and it hit me so quick that this is what she was going to show me. And it fits her so well, and it fits her life to a T right now. And I think it's a huge accomplishment. And I think it's super relevant and important to her right now. And it's a statement for you, I believe. Yeah. And I couldn't be more proud that you've purchased the vehicle that you wanted to. And I also think your license plates are awesome. Thank you. I think it fits, like the whole lady law on your license plate is just, I love it. Like it just makes me so happy. So congratulations to get the vehicle you've always wanted. And I think it symbolizes a lot in your life. And I think that's important.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. And just so listeners know a little bit about the backstory.
Yeah, I think you should tell them.
Lady Law. So Lady Law is a huge Dodge Ram. It's a Badlander, so it has this lift kit package.
It's a big truck,
huge tires, and like all the bells and whistles.
Which doesn't look like you would be driving it sitting here today.
I know, right? I think when I get out of it, like people are shocked. I know they are, and that's kind of where the Lady Law license plate came. Yeah. So I got the Dodge Ram because Walt always drove Dodges, and he'd let me drive his truck. You know, he was happy to let me drive his truck. And when I moved after from the house that him and I had lived at, it was very frustrating not having a truck. I didn't know how much I missed it. And so I decided I'd always driven Acuras, and I had one that was I always leased them. And so finally I was like, well, I'm going to be a big girl and I'm going to actually own something this time. And so then I thought, what if I buy a truck? Like nobody's stopping, you know, I don't need permission from anybody to get what I want. All of a sudden this I have this light bulb moment, and I was like, I'm going to get a truck. So then of course I start the search, and I find this one, and I was like, the minute I saw it, I knew it was meant to be. And so I get this truck. And so I drive it around town, and I'm stopping at gas stations, you know, to fill it up, which, you know, is not cheap, which is fine. But men will come up to me and they say, oh, I really like your, you know, you guys' truck. When did you guys get it? Or when did y'all get this truck? It was always, it could never just be my truck. And so I'm not the type of girl that really wanted a bunch of pink on it, which is fine. I see trucks out there with pink, and I'm, you know, that's awesome. But I was just like, how do I make this my own? How do I send a message that this is my truck? Yeah. And I was actually brainstorming with my mom, and one of us, and I can't even remember who, said Lady Law. And I was like, that is it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to register for this plate. If it's available in the state of Nebraska, it was meant to be. And it was. And so you know, when the name of this podcast is Grateful by Lady Law, it's actually not, Lady Law is not me.
I know. I was going to say, I think most people probably think Lady Law is you, but it's actually the truck.
The truck. Yeah. And it really just represents, that truck to me represents going after what I really want. But always having those undertones of the things that are meaningful to me. So like that truck will always remind me of Walt. He was such a huge part of my life. He always will be. And just, you know, but actually just celebrating my success, and just kind of living life on my terms. And the fact that I'm a female and I'm driving a truck and not a lot do it, it's fine. You know, I don't need to be like everyone else.
And I don't think you need to explain anything about it, but I do think it's a cool story. And we did talk a little bit about this just not too long ago about how influential people can be in your life. I think that's a little bit why you started this, and why we're here today talking. But like Walt's inspiration and your career's inspiration with law and other things, you know, this truck came about. I think it's really important, not that I need to send a message to people, but it's important for people to reflect, self-reflect a little bit and remind themselves of how they got where they are, who's been inspirational in that, why they do what they do every day, what gets you up in the morning, like, why do you work that hard? Why do you take vacations? Why do you spend your money the way you do? Why do you buy what you buy? Why you live the way you live? But I do think that it's something to think about, is to really, I guess, remember, and I don't know, for lack of better terms, other than self-reflection, is what you're grateful for and who's inspired you and who means a lot to you in your circle and what helped you, how'd you get where you are? Because again, back to my previous statement, you don't get where you are alone.
Right.
You're influenced every day, and you have to remember what you're grateful for, why and how you got to where you are. And that's why it's just, I don't know, feels good to be on this show with you and get to celebrate what you're doing. And I'm honored to think that you think I was one of your influences. And
you always are to this day.
Yeah.
Who's some of the people that have influenced you? Any off the top of your head?
I have several. I mean, probably longer than this show would go on, but, my mom has been a huge influence to me. She's been a hard worker and set the standard for work ethic really early on. And, there's nobody more proud of me than she is. And there's nobody I can thank more than her. My dad as well. My dad had a different mentality than my mom, but, he definitely thought that I walked on water and I could accomplish anything. And if you have somebody think about you the way he thought about me, which was you could do anything you want, you kind of become invincible. You're motivated. And, I'd have to bring up John Lund. I've worked for him for over 20 years. He's been a professional mentor and coach to me, in good and bad times. And he's taught me everything I know about real estate, and has been very patient. I was very green when I started in the industry, and I did not know much about it. But he's taught me a lot. My daughter, as a young person, is a huge inspiration. She's got young energy. I need young energy.
Yes.
But, my friends, people like you who are doing great things like this, and my other family members who are successful and not successful, they all have meaning, and like I said, I could thank a lot of people and think of a lot of ways they've influenced me or impacted me. But it's very good.
So when we met a few days ago just to chat and catch up, you had a quote that I really liked. Do you remember that quote?
Oh, I don't know. I have a lot of
sparkle.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll do the clean version.
Okay.
The clean version doesn't have cursing in it. But I'm a big, don't let anything or anybody dull your sparkle.
I love
and
that.
I'm not a glitzy girl, like you said. I'm probably not the girl who wears a lot of pink or has a lot of pink or a super girly princess, but I am very much the meaning behind don't dull your sparkle is just burn hot. You got to be bright. And that's what I try to do.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Just so you know, whenever I always tell people, Holly, talk about Holly Jones, my friend, I'm like, she's the coolest girl you'll ever meet.
Oh,
you're
thank you.
A cool person.
I think it's funny because people who like me call me by my full name, and people who don't just call me Holly.
I know. I'm like, Holly Jones.
And you keep saying Holly Jones. So I'm like, I think she likes me a little bit. So it's great.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Much success to you. Please continue to watch her. She's going to do great things on this show. I know she is. And I'd be happy to visit anytime.
Oh, I'd love to have you back.
Okay. Sounds great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone for listening. Just wanted to remind you that I'm on social media. You can catch me on iTunes, Spotify. There's all kinds of different ways to find me. So keep watching Grateful by Lady Law. Thank you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Grateful by Lady Law. Be sure to follow this show on all of your favorite social media platforms. Listen wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We'll see you next time on Grateful by Lady Law.
A Hurrdat Media Production.